Today, I'd like to just provide a high-level overview of how Alertus fits into the federal market. The federal market is vast, as many people who are watching this know. It's Department of Defense, Department of War, it's federal civilian agencies, veteran affairs, intelligence community. There's a number of different sectors and a number of different use cases that can be applicable in the federal market. And so, what I'd like to do is just provide a general overview of how Alertus fits into the federal space and how ultimately we can help provide audible, visual, and mass notification to the populace to help reach any challenge in any area of need for your sites or your customer sites. But a little bit of background on Alertus. Alertus is an emergency notification provider of 25 years of experience. We've been in business working with education, corporate, healthcare, and definitely federal market for the last 20 years or so. And really for us, how we get started in these understanding who Alertus is in these presentations and these webinars is really diving into what the challenges and what the customers are seeing in their sites. When we talk to a federal agency or a customer or a partner who is in the federal market, we really want to identify some of the gaps that we see. The federal market, like I said, is vast. A military installation is going to have a completely different use case than a IRS office environment. But the challenges are fairly the same across the federal space. You have slow activation times with existing systems. You have siloed systems, coverage gaps in SCIFs or in just general populace. You could be talking to a veteran affairs hospital where there's inpatients and visitors who are not going to be on a mass notification service list. You might be talking to a military base that has an aging giant voice system. And ultimately, these gaps start to paint a picture of what the federal market looks like and how Alertus, as well as other mass notification systems, can fit in. And speaking of the siloed systems, these siloed systems create numerous steps and numerous options for the operators to handle emergencies. And again, regardless of where you're targeting and who you're talking to, the typical processes are giant voice and outdoor alerting, mass notification from an SMS and email perspective, along with various radios, PA systems, indoor and outdoor audible visual alerting. If you're one of the unfortunate ones at your site or one of your partner sites that's still doing word of mouth, that's a whole nother challenge in itself. And so what's happening is these siloed approaches are just taking an extraordinary amount of time when it comes to how alerting should take place. It could be any type of event. It could be a weather event. It could be an active threat, but some form of detection exists at some point, from E911 to a camera to weather alerting. And where the event usually takes place is where the activation usually falls short, I should say, is the decision gap, where operators at this point have to figure out how are they going to operate and how are they going to activate these systems or system. And again, going back to the last slide, SMS and email, giant voice, fire panels, these decisions, these activations, they eventually lead to slow action. And so what does Alertus do? Alertus wants to bring everything together. And when we say everything together, we're mostly talking about the broader emergency alerting ecosystem that you see in the space. Again, emergency alerting can be very vast. It can be mass notification. It can be outdoor voice. It can be indoor voice. It can be IP alerting. It can be a combination. And many sites and many operators that we work with today are, they might be doing a few of those options. So what we want to do is we want to bridge the gap between audible and visual alerting so that we can get away from the swivel chair effect that operators see today, making it streamlined. So if there's an event, you don't have to swivel in your chair and activate 5 systems at once. You know that whatever processes are in place, the systems will automatically activate or give your operators the tools to activate everything within seconds. So let's dive in. Let's see, explain how this actually works and what this actually looks like. From a starting place, Alertus wants to integrate. That's the key word. That's the buzzword, not even just in emergency alerting, but in the broader physical security ecosystem with cameras, access control, drone detection, you name it. There's all these different types of systems out there, including mass notification. Everybody wants to tie everything together. And Alertus is no different. We have we have built our profile on this over the years, and this is one of our standing, staples of what makes Alertus Alertus. So when it comes to integrations, we really focus on a few things. First off, we've built a network of partners over the years that have really allowed us to integrate with pretty much any type of system. It is broad. What you're seeing here is 12 options, but the number of options is extraordinarily high when it comes to existing mass notification, computers, IP phones. This top layer here is really, this top row is about the internal IP options. We integrate with computers, Cisco phones, Avaya, digital signage systems. Take a look around your site. Take a look around your offices. Any type of signage or computers that you all have, phone systems, there's a good chance that we can tie into it. And Alertus does, again, we integrate with mass notification, but we also provide our own mass notification. So at the end of the day, we lean on partners like Everbridge and Motorola and Alert Media, along with other third-party systems like Ad Hoc that we can tie into. These are systems that we'll see in the federal space that are already in place, but Alertus can come in and bridge that gap, provide some of the integrations into the mass notification piece, along with some of the internal assets. The middle row is also extremely important because what we typically see at a federal, installation or office is, some type of internal, PA, fire panel, outdoor speaker system that's already in place. Again, Alertus's first focus when it comes to the federal market is integration. So everything on this slide is integrating with what the customer already has. So if they have an existing federal signal giant voice system, an existing Honeywell fire panel system, an existing Everbridge mass notification system. These aren't barriers that Alertus sees. Alertus sees opportunity to tie disparate systems all together. The bottom piece is just as critical, though. So typically, again, we're going to be talking about the emergency notification ecosystem, but the main focus as well is also the broader physical security ecosystem. So E911 and CAD integration, cameras, access control, and any number of sensors, drone, CRAM, weather alerting, chemical. There's a number of different sensors that are out there at an installation or an office. And ultimately, the goal is not to necessarily come in and disrupt or change the processes that physical security and emergency management have created. It's allowing our system to interact and be that emergency alerting arm of the physical security ecosystem. And so this is where we start, right? This is where we want to, try to hopefully work with the customer and our partners to really identify where are the gaps, what are the systems that are in place, and where can we tie into. From there, speaking of the gaps, this is really where we expand and enhance our portfolio and our customers' needs. For us, it really comes down to, again, audible visual alerting. This is the backbone of Alertus's system. When it comes to emergency alerting, again, you think of mass notification, you think of giant voice, but there's indoor alerting. There's areas for website or warehouses, and there's areas that are for SCIFs and sensitive areas. There's a number of different audible visual products for every type of scenario. Whether we're working with a defense contractor, a ammunition plant, or a port, every application is going to be a little different on what they need. So this slide is always a good representation of the products that we have for all customers, but not all customers are going to be using every single product. And so from here, allowing our system to, our customers to come in and provide audible visual alerting for those gaps, that's a critical need. And that also ties directly into one of our key components here, which is our giant voice system. And so, as I mentioned in the last slide, the biggest thing when it comes to mass notification and especially outdoor giant voice is that integration piece. Alertus does have the ability to come in and be that integration partner. We work with companies like Federal Signal, Wayland, ATI. We've integrated with Eaton and Sercom. These are competitors in a lot of ways when it comes to providing audible visual alerting in a lot of installations and bases. However, they're also friends and partners of ours. And so where we see our advantage here in this space is ultimately allowing the operators and the installations a choice, integrate or replace. And it doesn't always have to be made right away. We integrate many times with an existing customer and try to provide them with that one-to-one organization, one-to-one integration with that system. And then later on, if parts fail or there is some issues, we can always replace as needed. So ultimately, when it comes to, again, the products themselves, the focus is simple: integrate, fill in the gaps. And then the last piece is just as critical, right? So emergency alerting shouldn't be, it's not black and white by any means, but at a dumbed down level, emergency message out, and at what audience, and how vast can we get it out. And the speed is actually one of our biggest advantages here at Alertus. So when it comes to emergency alerting, again, your site or your customer sites are going to have the processes in place already, right? We might have existing setups, we might have live microphones, we might have the existing ad hoc or Everbridge system in place. And so for us, what we want to do is provide you all a option here of expanding and enhancing the system, very similar to complementing and integration. And by doing that, we provide a number of different activation options that allow our customers to get the message out within seconds. Many installations and many customers are leaning on minutes at many times to activate the system, having operators go into a complex user interface, activating a system that they're not familiar with, then swiveling in their chair and doing a live PA announcement or a live giant voice announcement. What we want to do is simplify that. And again, you see many options on the screen now: hardwired panic buttons, rapid response consoles, mobile apps. These are options that every site's going to have that are going to vary based on the operators and based on the emergency managers. A VA hospital might have the emergency management team and the police department have their rapid response consoles ready at their desk, whereas a global security operations center may have a user interface with a third-party access control camera or C2 system that can activate the Alertus system. At the end of the day, however the system is activated, we can do it quickly. We have many customers, including some in the federal military space, who have been able to activate our system in less than a second. The Department of State, for example, has the ability to do counter RAM and counter drone detection, and we've been able to detect and activate the system within half a second or less. So ultimately, the goal here is quick activation. And whether you're doing it as a facility-wide activation here at the top, or potentially one-to-one activation options with Wi-Fi panic buttons, USB panic buttons, software-based panic buttons back to security, regardless of how you activate the system, it's quick, it's streamlined, and again, it goes back to tying everything together. And that's ultimately, as you can see, is really how we want to set everything in action. At the end of the day, we don't want that process, as I mentioned at the beginning, to be detection, have multiple processes, activate multiple systems. The goal here is have one detection, one operator view, one throat to choke, one activation option that allows everybody to have a streamlined understanding of the situation and know that the event is going to go off within seconds. And that's really what emergency alerting is. At the end of the day, Alertus provides a unified system. We work with all types of systems, including ad hoc, Everbridge, and Army Alert. We work across the board with Federal Signal, Wayland, ATI, and many of the leading giant voice providers. But we also provide our own audible visual hardware to fill in gaps. And that's ultimately, at the end of the day, where we see our advantage in this space is we come in with the approach of integration, tying in with customers and where they can fit in, and not always having to be the entire system, right? We can be a piece of the system. And so if there's an opportunity to connect further, I'd love to connect with with you or your representatives, and look forward to hearing back. And my information here is below. I'll pass it back to you, Claire.